Donald Trump is a pedo, and his best friend was a pedo. Let's be plain, simple, blunt, and honest about it. That is what we have known this whole time, and the cover-up of that information, it just makes it all the more clear. And it makes it clear that Donald Trump understands how damaging it will be for his term, and it is. That moment has come right now. Because when you hire stupid people, because you know you can take advantage of and maneuver them, you get stupid people results. And that is what has come from Pam Bondi's illegal and bungled release of the Epstein files, with Donald Trump selling girls to Epstein now being revealed. We are going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button, because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into that leak that Pam Bondi accidentally let loose, a horrible implication of Donald Trump in a disgusting crime, I want to start with Ari Melber's breakdown of all that we've learned tonight. It's important context that we got to begin with.
So if you are someone saying tonight, did we get nothing? The answer is no. We, the American public, journalists, lawyers, those interested in this story, got new information. And if you're asking, did we get everything? No. As Nicole and I discussed, we're a long way from that. And the DOJ is not being transparent. And so I'm going to show you what I mentioned. How they started the day was not, hey, we're really trying, or the way they worded it in this letter, which I'll get into, which on paper sounds good, like, hey, we're doing as much as we can. But they did something quite different to start the day. The very controversial former defense lawyer for Donald Trump, now the #2 official at DOJ, went out on Fox and said they're not releasing all the files today.
I expect that we're going to release several 100,000 documents today, and those documents will come in all different forms, photographs and other materials. And so I expect that we're going to release more documents over the next couple of weeks. So today, several 100,000, and then over the next couple of weeks, I expect several 100,000 more.
The law says what it says. President Trump signed it, and of all the agencies in government, the Justice Department knows a lot about complying with the law. Remember, Mr. Blanche, Pam Bondi, and their deputies and prosecutors, they go after people all the time for not complying with the law. If you have an IRS deadline, you don't get to say, oh, I'm giving you some now and some later, maybe a couple 100,000 later. This goes to the question of whether this Trump administration is honest, complies with the law, or is dishonest and has a different elite standard for itself than everyone else. Here's how Blanche put it to Congress. Because of the volume of the material and the requirements that every page of every doc be reviewed for potential redactions, final stages of review of some material continue. They talked about that ongoing review being completed over the next 2 weeks. And that's what I mean about the contrast. As a letter, the reason that's written that way and that carefully, and we have it right here, is they are prepared to be taken to court. And they want to be able to try to argue to judges that they are really doing this. So in writing and to Congress and in the legal documents, this DOJ is acting like the Epstein Transparency Act is good law. They're not defying it. And they are, I think, I'm telling you our reporting, trying to set themselves up to be able to defend this if they are taken to court. At the same time, on Fox and elsewhere, they have a little more bluster, sounding like they'll decide when and how material comes out. And I mentioned Congressman Ro Khanna, who led this fight on a bipartisan basis, a Democrat who recruited Republicans and then won that clash with the president himself. Here's how he's reacting.
Some of the documents, I've just been scanning them, have very heavy redactions. This including documents for which judges ordered released, like the grand jury testimony in New York. They owe the Congress and the American public an explanation for every redaction. That I didn't see published on the DOJ page, but the law is very clear that any redaction has to be justified in writing.
Everything that we thought was coming is, and it really has disturbed me to my core. That all of our predictions, every time we were told to settle down, we were being too conspiratorial. In fact, we should have been ramping it up. And my thing that I continue to come back to before we get into what was leaked, accidentally shared by Pam Bondi, is that if we're seeing this info, if we're seeing Donald Trump with photos with young girls, description of his disgusting behavior towards them, his own wife at the time warning a mother of not allowing Donald Trump to be around her 14-year-old daughter, then what's coming and what's still covered up? If we've already seen all this disgusting behavior, all these photos, all these crimes, this close relationship with Epstein, what's being covered up? Two things in mind for me. Trump obviously being a pedo. And the second, Epstein's death. A very mysterious death. A death that the camera went out. Pam Bondi doesn't want to talk about it. Of course she doesn't. Because it would mean looking further into photos like this and reporting came out tonight. Two particularly disturbing pieces of evidence were revealed tonight. The first from Midas Touch. From the Epstein files, Jeffrey Epstein is photographed holding a large check bearing Donald Trump's signature with his arm around an unidentified female. The check appears to be the same one shown in Epstein's birthday book, where a longtime Mar-a-Lago member joked about Epstein selling a fully depreciated woman to Trump for $22,500. This other piece of evidence also illustrates Donald Trump's disgusting behavior towards children. With it reading, during one of Doe's encounters with Epstein, he took her to Mar-a-Lago where he introduced her to its owner, Donald J. Trump. Introducing 14-year-old Doe to Donald J. Trump, Epstein elbowed Trump playfully, asking him, referring to Doe, "This is a good one, right?" Trump smiled and nodded in agreement. They both chuckled and Doe felt uncomfortable, but at the time was too young to understand why. Truly despicable, truly disgusting. Epstein selling girls to Donald Trump, showing off him being a groomer at Mar-a-Lago. And we're supposed to believe that Donald Trump just at some point while he was engaging with all of this, one day woke up and realized that Epstein was a creep. He always knew. It was a business dispute that saw the end of their friendship, which honestly still continued. It never really ended. Because that's how Donald Trump wrote about him and Epstein, enigmas, right? That they're just always together. Right? Never age. That's what they said. So if that has already come out, and if there's more that is being hidden, how gross can it get? How criminal can it get? How disgusting can it be? Those are the questions that we have to wrestle with. And those are the questions that Robert Garcia is demanding answers to. I want to hear what he had to say tonight. I think it's incredibly important. Let's take a look.
Let me just start by saying that the Trump administration and the DOJ right now are defying Congress and breaking the law. Clearly, they had till today, they have till midnight still to do the right thing and release all the files. They have not done that. And they've presented them in a way, by the way, where they're not very searchable to the American public. There's huge redactions, which are not explained. And we know that many of the documents, and we think it could be as close to half of the documents, have already been released to the public. So what you have in there is you have former court documents, you have 33,000 pages that were already sent to the Oversight Committee as part of our subpoena, you have video footage from the prison, and you have testimony from Ghislaine Maxwell. All of that paper and documents, the public has already seen. They're in the public record. And then of the new materials that are in there, there are certainly many photographs. And on top of the photographs, you have these new documents that are highly redacted. And so we have right now little new information. Now, we're still reviewing. We have our entire oversight team reviewing everything. But I've been on the phone today with Ranking Member Jamie Raskin, and certainly one of the best constitutional lawyers in the country. And our teams are working right now to put together a strategy to ensure that there is a legal strategy here. We have to push back. They are in right now. They are defying the Congress and the law. And we've got to ensure, one, that all the documents get released, and two, that these redactions are actually following the law and what we're actually looking for, which is not eliminating our ability to get transparency and justice for the survivors.
Congressman, let me sort of dig a little bit on Simone's point, because I think it's an important one. And that hinges on okay, you knew this, not you personally, but the Congress. We here at this table, Americans across the country, knew what's playing out right now was actually going to play out. We knew this a week ago. We knew this the day that this was signed into law, that this administration was going to find every way possible not to comply. So there has been a run-up to this moment. And over the next 5 hours, what may or may not still come but from this administration, that some response has to be planned, has to be thought through by the Congress, Congressman Massey, yourself and others, Congressman Khanna, all those pieces that have had their fingers in this and trying to move this thing to the public. There has to be a response other than what? We're going to wait and see if they comply? Because we know they're not.
Oh, there will definitely be a response. And look, besides obviously Jamie Raskin, I've also talked to Ro Khanna as well, who's doing a fantastic job. Look, all of us are talking. We have been planning and waiting for this moment for a long time. And I think we have, of course, midnight will be approaching here in a few hours. Our teams are reviewing the documents. They're going to be reviewing documents all throughout the days ahead. And so we are absolutely actively working on a response. And it's not just the Congress. I can guarantee you that right now there are outside organizations and groups that are doing the same thing in reviewing these documents and preparing a response. And so there is no scenario where we're going to allow Pam Bondi, the DOJ, and Donald Trump to continue this cover-up. They are defying the Congress right now. And I would hope that Mike Johnson, who is supposed to be leading the entire body, would actually say something and back us up for once and demand transparency and justice for the survivors.
Imagine that. Congressman, I want to read to you what Todd Blanche wrote in his letter to Congress, give you an opportunity to respond. He writes, because of the volume of the material and the requirement that every page of every document be reviewed for potential redactions under the Act, final stages of review of some material continue. I anticipate this ongoing review being completed over the next 2 weeks. The volume of materials to be reviewed means that the department must publicly produce responsive documents on a rolling basis. The department will continue to follow the review protocol and add to the public website materials that are responsive under the Act, and the department will inform Congress when that review and production are complete by the end of this year. I want sort of your general response to this, but I also want you to talk to me about him putting sort of the next 2 weeks on there as a timeline.
Look, let me just begin by saying that the DOJ has had months and months to actually put all these documents together. They've been working on it supposedly since the start of the Trump administration. They were on Pam Bondi's desk. They've been reviewed by Susie Wiles, who has said multiple times that Donald Trump is in them. Pam Bondi herself has been reported that she has told the president how much he's in the Epstein files. They have reviewed, they've had hundreds and hundreds of agents put these documents together. And now what we get is not transparency.
This is what we are seeing from real Democrats willing to fight. Making sure that we are moving forward and holding this administration accountable. This is what it looks like when you have some backbone, when you're committed to you have a team around you, which I know Robert Garcia's team, they are incredible fighters. This is what it looks like when we elevate real young leaders willing to get it done. I am so incredibly proud and inspired by Robert Garcia, the fight that he has led for justice for these survivors, and to hold Donald Trump accountable. It is what we are going to be talking about on the show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.